Hi everyone, how are you doing? Good or bad? Perfect. So my name is Yaroslav. I'm here to talk about how to build sustainable growth strategy. You've heard enough about me. I'm not going to talk about myself, although I like doing that, but not at this stage. Before we move on, I want you to do something for me. Please close your eyes. Now, everyone, close your eyes. Okay? Now think of, and you are product people, you have to visualize stuff properly. So think of growth. Don't open your eyes, keep thinking. Think of growth. Picture growth in front of you with your eyes being closed. Now open your eyes and please be honest with me and raise your hand, those who thought of anything like that. Dollars, KPIs, positive metrics going up. You are wrong. Unfortunately, you are wrong, because the growth is not about dollars. The growth is not about annual recurring revenue, metrics going up, and all the stuff. It's about the process. It's about the process you have to build and implement within your organizations, apply to your product, apply to your business, and apply to what is more important, to your teams. The good news is that there is a playbook that I'm going to share with you today, and I hope you will like it. I hope it will inspire you, and when you come back to your offices, you have something to implement. The playbook was built throughout my career, especially during a couple of last years working on one of our products that we have recently launched. So, long story short, the playbook consists of 3 key elements. The first one is find and measure your product market fit. Second is build and scale functional growth teams within your organization. And the third one is scale via testing and experiments. So as you can see, it's about product market fit, it's about teams that execute on your product and working with your product, and it's about how those teams should operate. The playbook was built using this product, like working on this product. I'm not going to be pitching this product to you, although I would like to, but I would give a little bit of a contents on what is that. So it's a subscription-based app store that users describe it as Netflix or Spotify for Mac applications. So it's a subscription model. You pay $10 a month and you get access to all of the applications. And now, further down the presentation, you will see how we developed the playbook working with this product. So let's do an overview. The first step is finding and measuring product market fit. So first of all, what is product market fit? This is the term that people use a lot. This is the term that people speculate a lot and not really using it properly. It all started, I think, back in 2007 when Mark Andreessen said that product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. This is a very good definition, but what can you measure here? Not a lot, right? So, and what we hear a lot from salespeople and marketing departments during all those meetings with stakeholders, when they're debating on what product market fit is, they say it means your average salesperson can sell your product to an average customer. Okay, that's a good definition. Or your average ad can convert significant percentage of your average customers. Again, there is not much that you can distill and apply to build something that is scalable and repeatable. For us, at the company I work for, product market fit is basically a health check that allows us to test whether the problem we solve exists, whether the problem is important enough, and what is the most important, is the market for our product a good market. So today, I'm going to show you simple and really easy to implement approach on how to measure and monitor product market fit. And the way we do this, we use Sean Ellis product market fit survey. Have you heard of it? Have you ever heard of this survey? Are you using it? Okay, not a lot of hands, but it was developed by this guy, Sean Ellis. We're not talking about him, we're talking about the framework he built, and I will be sharing very practical examples on how we actually use this framework. It's really simple. It's just 7 questions that we ask our users. And those questions are, so we ask, and you might want to take pictures, but from what I know, the organizers will distribute the deck afterwards. So you will have all this material because you will need to have it to use it. So the first question we are asking is, how would you feel if you could no longer use setup? In your case, it is your product. What would you likely to use as an alternative? What is the primary benefit you have received from setup? In your case, again, it's about your product. Have you recommended the product to anyone? What type of person do you think would benefit most from your product? How can we improve the product? And the most important one, one of my favorite ones, is that would it be okay if we followed up and scheduled an interview with you? Important thing, who should you send the survey to? You cannot distribute to the whole user base. That's useless. The survey should be sent to people who experience the core product offering. And 2 criteria can be applied. They used your product at least twice, and they used your product during last 2 weeks. No incentives. There are a bunch of opinions about this, but my personal opinion, based on my experience, you cannot offer incentives to your users, because at best, you will be hearing the complimentary language about you, about your company, about your product, in exchange on $100 Amazon coupon or whatever you are offering. Another important thing, how many people do you need to get the conclusive results? Again, according to Sean Ellis' framework, starting from 50 responses, so you don't need to have thousands, right? Starting from 50 responses, you can make really good conclusions. So the cool thing is that the survey is really insightful. Not the survey itself, but the results you're getting out of it. The bad thing is you actually have to talk to your users. And another question to the audience, how many of you talk to your customers ever? Woo! Perfect. How many of you talked to your customers last week? Okay, not that many, but still a lot. That's perfect. So you will have to do a lot with this logic being implied. Here is an example of the results you might expect. This is a screenshot from SurveyMonkey. We're using SurveyMonkey to do the surveys. I'm not affiliated with this company, just like the product they built and how you can use it. So we sent, this is one of the latest ones, we sent it to slightly more than 9,000 users who interacted with our product at least twice during last 2 weeks, and we've gotten 1,500 responses. Another bad news is that you will have to read all of them carefully, manually, forget about AI, forget about optimization, forget about all this stuff. You will have to read all the responses. The most important question in this survey, the one I was showing before, is that how would you feel if you could no longer use setup? In your case, it is your product. And you're giving 4 options to answer. Very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not disappointed at all, and the 4th one, users don't really care. According to the framework, according to the survey, if 40% say that they would feel very disappointed if your product could not exist anymore, it would mean that you have a product market fit. So again, if 40% would be very disappointed, you are in a good market with a product that could satisfy this market, according to the definition we've seen before. So the good news for us with setup was that 48%, and that's the number we are balancing within during last year or so, almost 40% would feel very disappointed if we stopped existing, and that's me. That's me at the demo to the stakeholders, to the team, because it's kind of a good feeling that you do have a product market fit. But it was just a beginning. You have to drill down into other questions and analyze all the qualitative and quantitative data. So the next question, and it's an open-ended one. That's a really important thing. You do not have predefined options that they just select randomly. You build it with open-ended questions, and you asking, what would you likely to use as an alternative if setup or your product was no longer available? important thing is that you're giving your users the voice and then can explain who the competition is. You do not really have to hire agencies doing the market researches. Your marketing team does not have to analyze 100 of competitors, builds the metrics with feature sets and everything. You're giving your users a voice and they can tell you who the competitors are. So in our case, we found out that a lot of users would not use any alternatives. And that's not surprising because we are building a new niche and there is not much of a competition in it. Well, there is Apple with their Mac App Store, but that's a big player. So there is not much of a competition. And for us, it was really important to understand who else we are competing with. And that's what they told us when we were doing this for the first time. The word cloud is not enough. Like it said at the beginning, you will have to manually read through every single response. There is no way to optimize it and to build a word cloud and make a fancy demo for the stakeholders. No, you have to analyze what kind of words they're using. And one of the findings we had, if you see here on the top 10 list, Mac App Store is number 7. And we were thinking we are competing with Apple's Mac App Store, which was not true. We were competing with apps. That's number 1 thing on the list. So, and again, the way we found out, we read carefully through all the responses, and we understood that we are an app store competing with apps being on this app store, because users can buy applications somewhere, elsewhere, and it's our job to build the onboarding process that would explain them why they have to have all the applications that we have, why it's really cool to use subscription model and to get access to all the applications rather than just buying 1 or 2. Another important thing, and that's why I like using SurveyMonkey, you can analyze the tone of the voice of the customers when they're writing all the responses in your survey. So they feel positive, they feel negative, because when you're asking them how would you feel if you could no longer existed, what we had at the first time, they were calling our support team saying like, what the hell is going on? Are you going out of market? And we did not tell our support team that we are doing this experiment. So that's kind of part of the problems with team collaboration. So question number 3, what is the primary benefit that you have received from setup? I'm from marketing, and my job is to spend money, right? And so, like, not literally, but, and sometimes we spend a lot of money into getting traffic to test something, into building hypotheses and validating those. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and it takes a lot of money. Instead of this, you just take your active users and you give them the voice through the open-ended questions like this to let you know what is the primary benefit that they are receiving from your product. No tests needed. And that's what they said to us. And again, this is just an example. You cannot just live by the word cloud. So they told us that the primary value that they are getting was, of course, applications that they were getting, and they were explaining us how are they getting it. And another finding that we got was that it's killing us, because the value they are getting from us was they try an app and they go somewhere to buy it. We are giving them the 7-day free trial, they try the application, and they're gone. And that's how an idea of credit card required flow appeared as one of the ideas. We had a lot of them, but this actually brought a lot of ideas to the table that we implemented afterwards. And again, it was right after reading every single response. This is not something I'm really happy about, because reading 1,500 responses is tough. And again, you have to analyze how they feel by explaining this value to you. Not everyone is happy, and they are not shy. You're talking to active users. They are not shy on sharing their feedback. The next question is, have you recommended setup to anyone? This is my favorite one, because we are not asking, would you recommend? Okay? They always say yes, and they never do. They always promise, especially if you're giving them Amazon gift card or whatever. They always say yes, but they never do. We actually identify the fact where the recommendation actually happened, right? And we are asking them, those who did recommend, this is our case. Again, 53% say they did recommend us, which is pretty inspiring thing for the whole team. But we are asking them to explain what kind of words they are using to recommend us. This is not enough. You have to drill down, and you have to better understand how they describe you to other users. And again, every single response and how they feel while working with this. Fifth, fantastic. It's just fantastic thing. What type of person do you think would benefit most from setup? Instead of building all those useless bio personas, having them on the wall, and having your army of copywriters writing a advertising copy for this, John, married 42 years, US, whatever, you are giving a voice to your active users who voted with $1 for your product, explaining who they think product will fit. Who else other than them can use your product? And again, if you can see, even on the word cloud, Mac and Power, this was our key finding here. When we started drilling down into the results, we saw that of course, words like apps, people, someone are obvious. But power and user was instrumental for us, because when we were doing this study, the product was mostly targeted to early adopters segment, those people who try first. And this is how they identify themselves. This is how they call themselves. And then our copywriters and creative team and agency we were working back then with started tailoring all the messaging and all the targeting for the Mac Power user to go to this segment. Number 6, and like I said, these guys are not shy. If something's not working, they will let you know immediately. So when you ask them how you can improve the product, they will definitely tell you. And they will tell you all the truth about your product. So in our case, they're mostly requesting applications, and they let us know which apps they need and why. And with this data, we go to developers and invite them to set up. And number 7, you guys said you're doing a lot of user interviews. There were a lot of hands raised. This is fantastic source to invite people to the interviews. No need to pay someone, no need to hire agency to bring the people. You just invite them via the survey. And if they answered 6 questions before, the likelihood of them being willing to talk to you is high. So the takeaway, when you go home, when you go back to your offices after this conference, I think part of my mission will be achieved if you create and send this survey, and if you measure your product market fit and understand the percentages of people who would be very disappointed, and then segment those and see how they are different from those who would not be disappointed if your product was no longer available. You analyze qualitative and quantitative data the way I described, and you distribute it to the whole team, and your copywriters, your marketing people know what the value of the product is by your user's opinion, not the market research you paid for. And then I will be happy, and I hope it will be useful for you. Important thing is not product market fit is not permanent. It's not you did the survey, you found that 45% would be disappointed, they tell you what the value is, and that's it. No, it's a permanent process. And 2 easy ways to health check your product market fit on a regular basis are 2. The first one is, like I said, set up a sequence of emails that would be sending the survey on a regular basis to your user base. In our case, we're doing this quarterly. So 4 times a year, we analyze how people feel about us, what they tell about us, and then we match this data against all the activities that we've done within this quarter, and then we make the conclusions. So, and there are a couple of examples when it was not really 40%, so we were not really happy with the results, and we did a lot of changes to the product. Survey only is not enough, of course, to understand where the product market fit is and how to measure it. The second important thing is use retention dashboards, important, with segmentation being applied. It's not just know how many people you can retain, it's understanding where they come from. And this is an example of one of our dashboards. As you can see, we monitor the retention and we segment it by channel. And those check boxes on the right side You can play with it and understand which channel works and which channel does not work and which better contributes to your product market fit. So this dashboard tells us that 30% of paying customers come back on each day. This looks healthy. This is a really positive indicator for us, but dashboards for trial customers do not look that cool. And again, speaking about the product market fit, it's not just about the paid user base. You have to understand what the trial users feel and what their life looks like. A bad dashboard. 90% of users are gone by the second day of the trial. So this is what we are thinking of, and this is what we are working on. So setting up dashboards will let you track the health of your product constantly. A survey and retention. So, like I said, the product market fit does not last forever. That was the first step. The second one is build and scale functional growth teams. This is the process we went through because we went from having classic marketing people to having a growth marketing team. And that's a huge, huge difference. So I'm going to share a couple of lessons that we've learned on how to build and scale functional growth teams. So first of all, what is a growth team and how is it different from the marketing team? It's a self-contained team that owns and drives a business metric through rigorous testing practices. That's the keyword, testing practices. If you Google something like growth team structure, you will most likely find an image like this. And this is goddamn right. This is perfect. So the growth team should be a mixture of different expertise from product, from marketing, from engineering, and from data. And that's how you build the growth team, not just a classic marketing team dealing with the top of the funnel. The structure that we applied with, and there is nothing new in this slide, you just have to understand that you have to do it, and this is what we did in our organization. So the perfect structure for the growth team is there should be a product manager. People sometimes call this person a product owner, which I hate. It's not like this. There should be a leader who sets the culture and the direction for the team, within the team. There should be marketing people, 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. It really depends on the scale, but if you have multiple, the core thing would be to have marketing people with great expertise in certain domain, like email, PPC, SMM, and so on and so forth. There should be a designer, not a perfectionist. You don't need a person who loves doing really cool, sexy stuff 3 sprints in a row. That's not about growth team. You have to have I hate saying hacker, but to a certain extent, it's true. You have to have a person who is willing to do the design fast, building prototype fast, marketing people test it fast, engineers build those fast, and the data analyst gives the results fast. So you really have to have people who are willing to do things fast. If there is a 2-week sprint, a lot of experiments should be happening within those 2 weeks, not month, not a quarter. That's not about growth, right? It's all about speed for the growth team. Who to hire? That's really important thing, and you have to be really selective, and you have to cancel a lot of people, unfortunately, because there is such a concept that is called T-shaped marketing. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. What it actually means is that widening and fattening is good. So if let's say you have a person strong in email marketing or SMM or PPC, whatever, that's not enough. A person should be able to do things like research. A person should be able to analyze the data. And if you have an email marketeer, like in this case, who is able to do the SQL, fantastic. That's a rare case. So just to summarize it once again, the difference between growth marketing and classic marketing is this. This was presented by Brian Balfour a long time ago, and this illustrates really, really well. Marketing people, the classic ones, those who you don't want to have on your growth teams, would be dealing with awareness and acquisition. They would be buying traffic and converting those traffic to the signups. at best. You need to have people who really think of the whole funnel from the top down to the bottom, who think of the conversion on each of the stage, like trial to an active user, active user to a paid user, and then they would be thinking how to build referral program, for example, and they are able to analyze the data. So, once again, to be clear, it's not about hacking. Although people say growth hacking teams a lot, that's not it. It's about growth marketing. It's not about hacking one thing fast. It's about experimenting fast to build a long-term thing. Okay, so those were 2 steps. Just to recap, the first one, find and measure your product market fit, retention dashboards, and product market fit survey with qualitative and quantitative data. Second, build and scale functional growth teams. And the third one is scaling via testing and experiments. And that's really, really easy to say, but it's super tough to implement. We went through this process, and it took us a while to build those teams who would be doing the scaling via testing and optimization. Those people have to have an experimentation mindset. That's super critical thing. You cannot be working with people if they do not have experimentation mindset. The process we follow is 5 things. And again, there is nothing new. It's not an innovation. There is a discovery, then there is a prioritization, then there is design and execution, measurement, and then learning and insights. The 5-step process that we go through. And when people think about, let's say, prioritization, they start thinking, okay, am I using Jira? Should I be using Trello? Do I know how Kanban model works? Is t-shirt sizing better for the backlog or prioritization of feature estimation? The key thing that we found, you cannot think of tools first. This is a secondary thing. Although I love tools personally, I love playing with them, selecting them, but that's not what you're supposed to do. This is a secondary thing. First, you have to build this process of prioritization done right. Design and execution, like I said, you cannot be designing things for sprints, weeks, month, whatever. It's building things fast, bringing them to the market fast, experiment, make decision. Measurement. Ideally, in a perfect world, you have to have a really talented data analyst with an experimentation mindset in your team. It's tough to find. It took us about a year to find the proper guy for the team. Before that, T-shaped marketing people can work with the data. Like if you have a, let's say, pay-per-click specialist who is not able to analyze the result of his work, you're having a wrong person on the team, unfortunately. Another important thing, before we finish, is having a North Star metric. This is an overused term. I'm sure like 100% of people know what this is here. But the thing is that you have to have it, and you have to have it defined together with your team, together with your stakeholders and product managers. The way we did it, we thought like, what's the most important thing for us? And our North Star metric for setup as a product is vendor payout growth. So we are a marketplace that allows developers to distribute their applications to the audience. And out of $10 that users pay us monthly, 7 go to developers. And what we understood, if our partners make more money, we are more successful. For me, as a person responsible for marketing, this is super, super useful thing because it allows me to think from the bottom of the funnel. Vendor payout grows, then sales, then new users, then active users, then trials, and then the amount of traffic that I have to plan for this or that time of period. So once again, find and measure your product market fit. Second, build and scale functional growth teams. And number 3, it's an instrumental thing. Scale via testing and experiments. Now close your eyes again, please. One last thing. Think of growth. And if you pictured something not related to a dollar sign or a metric going up, a positive KPI, I think I achieved something for today. You can open your eyes right now. Thank you. It was a really great pleasure. Yeah, one last thing. Yes, we're hurrying. I'll make myself available at 1 p.m. at the booth. So if your HR are not here and you can talk free, come over, let's talk. Thank you so much.